just a direct.
With flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. All right. Are there any changes or addendums to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we will approve the agenda. Let's move to district recognition for brick and mortars, what I have this evening.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I have a list here of September students of the month that were recognized in an assembly with the parents and in front of their student body, fellow student body members. And I want to read their names because I've been able to meet a number of them, and they're just great kids, and we should be very proud of them. So for kinder, for the September student of the months were Skylar McGrew and Penelope Miller. First grade was Harlan Wamsley and Wesley Larson. Second grade was Courtney Larson and Leo Fletcher. Third grade was Macy Richter and Logan Cleveland. Fourth grade was Taryn Woosley and Levi Henry. Fifth grade was Ahi Lopez and Langston Clendenin. And then middle school for students of the month for September was Shelby Darlington and Carson Thomas. And high school was Lily Ullman and Jacob Foster. I think all these students deserve our recognition and our appreciation. Let's give them a round of applause.
A big congratulations from the board. That's awesome. Thank you.
I'll definitely pass that along. Absolutely. And then in terms of employees, we don't have a specific employee to recognize right now, but I think it's important that we do recognize what's on the docket for the month of October. It's the National Principal Month. So when you happen to see one of the principals, slap them on the back, shake their hand, say thank you. Also, is School Custodian Appreciation Day was October 2nd. Our custodians provide incredible services for us. In fact, I had to talk to one the other day. I said, oh, there's a mess over there. I was so grateful that they took care of that. And so I really appreciate them. And then October 6th was National Coach Day. And we certainly appreciate our coaches for all the time they spend with our kids. So if you see one of those people that occupies those positions, also congratulate them and just thank them for what they're doing.
All right. Thank you. Next is our superintendent report, Mr. Gallagher.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. You will see in the board packet a fireside chat calendar. We have scheduled once a month fireside chats. They're going to be at 6 p.m. on those dates in the gym, unless the gym is occupied with sports or something like that, and we'll probably just move it to the library. But again, fireside chats are just simply a time for us to chat. I'll probably present on some current happenings in the district, and then also I'll open up for question and answer. It's not a complaint forum. There's other formats that we have to use for any kind of complaints. But if, somebody has a concern like, hey, what are we doing with our curriculum for language arts? I'm a little concerned about that. Or, those are great topics to be talking about and to be updated on. Last fireside chat, we had one customer, but it was great because we had about an hour. We just chatted and we learned a lot about each other. And I learned a lot about what they do and how they serve our students. And we were able to accomplish a lot in just that hour's time. So it doesn't have to be a whole plethora of people, but I would certainly love to have people come to these fireside chats just to chat, just to talk about what's going on with the bond project, what's going on with athletics, what's going on with, RTI or state assessments or, all those sorts of things. Just a great time to have some dialogue. Also on the superintendent report is, I've got to pull it up here. And it's not pulling up. There we go. Is a state assessment scores report. Anna DeBoard is here tonight with me. She is our district testing coordinator this year. And so Anna, I'm going to invite you up to the table here. We have put together a presentation that we want to share with the board. And this is not going to be the first round that Anna and I present this. We'll be probably talking to staff, parent groups. This would be great for fireside chat, those sorts of things in terms of our state assessments and what's going on with that. So I don't want things to be too ouchy tonight because the scores you're going to see don't look very pretty, but I think there's a lot of things that we can do to be improving a lot of those areas as we work together in the best interest of our students. So up here on the screen is Oregon State Assessments. Keep in mind that we use what is called Smarter Balance Assessments. And I probably need to take the mic a little closer so people in internet land can hear me. So we use what are called Smarter Balance Assessments, and they're issued by the state in accordance with federal and state law. And the purpose of these assessments, and I think this is very important that we understand this, is the assessments help to evaluate our systems. And if you think about it, what is our most important system that we provide in schools? And that's curriculum, academics, with math, science, language arts. These are also summative tests that identify strengths and needs as a group. Teachers will give assessments like chapter tests. They'll give more informal assessments to monitor student progress throughout the year. The state assessment is the big assessment at the end of the year saying, okay, how are our kids doing on a yearly or annual basis? And that's very, very important data for a school district to look at and say, oh man, we have a serious dip in our math scores. We need to budget more resources in that area. Or hey, look at how we're doing in language arts. We might be able to have those conversations. And that's why the data is so important. And also summative assessment results give us a reliable, comparable indicator to measure the state of student academic achievement in language arts, math, and science across the districts and schools in Oregon. It gives us an opportunity to compare how our school district is doing compared to other school districts, and how are our students doing? Are you okay there, Anna? Yeah, you're great. Okay. Also, assessments help the government provide funding for curriculum and special programs. When we can show that our assessment scores aren't where they should be, that opens opportunities for grants that we can apply to with Oregon Department of Education or other different proprieties that hand out grants and resources. Some of them are geared to rural schools. Some of them are geared towards certain types of academic standards. Also, it provides parents with normalized assessment data for their individual child. And that's where we need to make sure that parents are receiving the results of their child's state assessment so they know how their child is doing in comparison. So let's talk about participation rates. Anna, would you like to present this piece?
Well, for the data, it is meaningful for us to meet. We must have at least 95 participation rate in our school. This is a federally required assessment that the ESEA Elementary and Secondary Education Act requires rates to be at least 95% for all students. Statistically, the district needs to see more greater than 80% participation for the validate the scores. And so we have the right information for our government to work with things. That is a big piece that we, Mr. Gallagher and I have been talking about that we will be working on this year. We really want to get those rates up and get the information out to parents to understand the importance of this assessment.
The one thing we've talked about is culture. And I understand there's been a culture of more encouraging opt-outs rather than students taking an exam. So we're stopping that this year. We need to be encouraging collectively as a community, our students to take these exams. It's not a waste of time by any means. Now, we know that it does take time to do this. I get it. But at the same time, this is very meaningful data for our community, for our school district, for our parents, for our teachers. And if we don't have a large enough sample size, the data becomes really invalid. We really can't put much emphasis on it. And you're going to see some participation rates here in the next few slides that shows that a lot of our data is invalid because we didn't meet those high percentages of participation.
Can you expand into this just really quick on the bottom of this opt-out slide, or is that the next one?
It's the
So-
next one.
Are you going
I
ahead?
went ahead.
is.
Sorry.
Are
you
gonna
I
wanna-
had my question.
She's got to get her
One of these
questions.
Overachieve. She's got. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay, I'll hold my
So-
question.
Yeah, please do. So opt out, there is an ORS 329.479, also called the Student Assessment Bill of Rights. It requires districts to provide the option for parents to opt out of state summative testing in English language arts and mathematics that does not include science. And so this will be provided by a letter going home stating when state tests will be taking place. Parents then may contact the school for an opt-out form if they wish. We're not just going to be handing them out like cotton candy. We're going to be holding back on the opt-out forms and encouraging students to take the exams and providing meaningful information for parents so they know why we're encouraging that students participate. But because we have this law, parents can still opt out if that's what they want to do. And when they opt out, that means that during the testing time, their student usually is in a different room or something. They can be working on homework or things of that nature, but that's not really what we're trying to encourage. The testing occurs in grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11. So it's quite a few grades for this year. And also note that science can only be opted out by a religious or medical exemption, and that is part of the state law. So I don't know why science is treated differently than language arts and math. I have no idea, but that's the way it is. So you had a question.
I do. So that raises a flag for me as to what the science tests are asking for in knowledge and things like that. Is there an overview that we can provide to parents in general over
Absolutely.
what we are testing in the arts, maths, and science?
Yes,
So that they can actually understand what their children are being asked. So
yes.
they can make that decision on the opt-out if it's their family best or not.
Yeah, it's basically the document would be the state standards. Because that's what the tests assess is the state standards. And that's when we adopt curriculum, like we just recently adopted the secondary curriculum, we have to make sure it aligns to state standards. So that's what we're teaching to. And so, but yeah, I think it'd be very important for parents to know why are we teaching to that, and then how the state assessments are assessing our students' progress towards meeting those requirements. No, very good. So let's look at some data here. This may be difficult for some people to see, so I'm going to kind of talk about the colors, okay, and what they mean. The blue bars are the percent of our students in the different grades. You have grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11. That's how those bars are clustered. The blue graphs indicate what percent of our students scored a 3 or a 4 on the assessment. 3 meaning they passed, 4 meaning they scored exceptionally on the assessment. So for grade 3, and this happens to be the chart that shows the ELA, which is a language arts. For grade 3, approximately 36-37% of our third graders passed the language arts assessment. Now, the orange bar right next to it shows how many of our grade 3 students participated. And it's about 26%. Is that close to 80%? Yeah, that's a long ways. And what about the 95%, which is the requirement by federal law? We're a ways away, aren't we? So that means we had too many opt-outs. The gray bar is the state in terms of what the state average for grade 3 scored. And so you really want to compare the gray bar with the blue bar. So our kids scored about 36-37%. The state grade 3 scored around 39%. So I would say we should be very proud of the small percentage of students who took the test. They're right in there in terms of what the state comparison is. But look at the yellow bar. The yellow bar is the state participation rate. Oh my. And they're up there about 92-93%. So that's what we want our orange bar to look like for this coming year. We want that orange bar to be right next to that yellow bar. We want to see, close to 95% of our third graders participating in the state assessment this year. And you can continue to look at this as you go from grouping to grouping. So once again, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11. So you compare the blue bar with the gray bar. That shows how our students did on the tests and how the state group did on their tests. And then you compare the orange and the yellow bars in terms of our participation rates. So if you look at all the orange bars, we're way down below what the state is doing. And then in grades 8 and 11, we didn't have anybody take the test. None. They all opted out. That's where we need your help. We really do. This is a community effort. We need to get the word out that it's important for our students to take these assessments. It's not a waste of time. It helps us attain resources. It helps us to make strategic investments. It helps us to make meaningful conclusions and make really solid decisions in the best interest of our students. You'll see some data at the next board meeting. I'm going to give you a precursor that Dave Crow has put together with his CTE regional consortium that shows the importance of being able to communicate in terms of job skills. It's one of the highest areas that employers are wanting to see is good communication skills. We need to know how our students are doing. We currently don't really know. We know how, approximately 25% of them did. What about the other 75%? We don't know. And that's where that data becomes invalid when we don't have enough students taking the state assessment. So let's go to the next graph. The next one is mathematics. And keep in mind, this is for the 21-22 school year. Same type of comparison. Blue bar is how our kids did in grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11. Notice we didn't have any kids take the state assessment in math in 8 or 11. I see a pattern there. And then you see how our students did, the blue versus the gray bars. Gray bar is how the state did. Blue bar is how our kids did. So you look and you can see that we're pretty much below except for grade 6. We got a highlight there. Wow. But then you look at the orange versus the yellow. Orange is our participation rate versus the yellow is the state participation rate. We're still way down, aren't we? We're not even close to that 80% for validity or that 95% is required. Here's our science assessments. And those are not as frequent, only in grades 5, 8, and 11. And once again, we didn't have anybody participate in grade 11. At least we had some 8th graders take the science test versus they didn't take the math or language arts. I don't know why, but I'm glad they did. And you can see the blue versus the gray. That shows how our students did in comparison to the state. And then the orange versus the yellow in terms of participation rates. We're still way, way down in participation rates. So Anna is going to be conducting and organizing our state assessments this upcoming spring. She's gonna be training staff. She attends all the regional trainings in terms of what she has to do as a district testing coordinator. It's a big job. We have to make sure that the tests are preserved and they're not leaked out. We have to make sure that students don't use improper apparatus when they're taking the tests. We have to make sure we have a proper testing environment for the students. So there's a lot to do with how these tests are given out. So I'm really excited about Anna stepping up to this year. It's a big step. It's a heavy lift. But again, let's get the word out, folks. We really do need your help on this. It can't just be Mr. Gallagher saying we have to. It needs to be the community saying we got to get these kids to take the test so we know how they're doing. Because right now I couldn't make really many conclusions from that data for you. It's just we just don't have enough frequency of the students taking the tests.
We have like district reporting also, like are there other districts we can get information on to see what their testing rates are and what their outcomes look like?
We can. What districts are you wanting to compare with? Are you wanting like size,
Right.
region, like around us, like Philomath,
Yeah.
Corvallis, Albany? Do you want Junction City, Monroe, Walport, Eddyville?
I think more like Eddyville, McKinsey, things like that.
Yeah.
I'm looking more like a rural,
Sure.
same like size districts. I think otherwise we're comparing apples to oranges.
Okay.
But that would be.
Yeah. Anna and I could put something together, just
Yes.
add on to this presentation with some more other charts. And because the state did release all the districts to us, and we can just pull those districts out and make some more bar graphs and
Yes.
add to this and bring this back and show you some comparisons.
I would, yeah.
And that's another thing that as Anna is working on this, she's coordinating with other district testing coordinators throughout the state. And so, it's a tremendous resource for us, for her to reach out to other testing coordinators and say, hey, how are you guys doing this? Or what's this mean? Or so, we have those resources available to us also. And as well as the admin, we'll be talking about it in the admin team and how we just really want to encourage students to be participating in these assessments. And anything you want to add to, did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered about everything. We're just going to encourage more and have a nice letter go out to the community and maybe work with Sarah Cash a little bit too on
Yeah, absolutely.
just explaining what it is and why we're doing it and how it's going to help out the school and our students.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. I was asked to put together a little presentation on the role of a project manager because I know that's coming up as a decision for the board and the action agenda items. And so I put together a quick memo there. This is not comprehensive by any means. This is combined with stuff I have been exposed to, as well as just my own experiences with project managers. But a project manager for a school construction project, they provide a very important service. Number one is they represent the customer. They make sure that the customer's interests, in other words, the school district interests, are always maintained throughout the course of the project. And that's probably the number one function that they provide. And it's absolutely no disrespect to architects and other contractors or anything like that. It's just they have a business to run on their own and they're looking out for their own interests always, which is rightly so. They need to be doing that. But for us, it's very important to have a project manager that can represent our interests. They're trying to ensure that the project is completed in a timely manner and the budget is followed. That's very important. If you don't have somebody that is watching that step by step, it's easy to get 3/4 done with the project. You run out of money and then the contractors say, okay, what are we going to do now? And you have 3/4 of building build. You don't want that. You want to make sure that you stay on budget and on time. There's a lot of leadership they provide. They coordinate a lot of different teams to perform tasks at the right time and place. They maintain the timeline. They look at collaboration to maintain project objectives. And again, they collaborate with the customer, with the school district. There are also people that are highly developed in construction management skills. Either they have worked up their way up as a contractor themselves. They have usually an education in construction management. They have lots of different qualifications that are highly specialized because they need to understand each and every piece. Project managers will oftentimes look at the engineered drawings and say, you know what, we don't need 3/4 inch plywood there. We could get away with 5/8 and save some money. You know, they understand the engineering designs and engineering codes. They also intervene and they're proactive resolving problems before they become a big issue with construction projects. And I know that many of you here have dealt with construction projects. Something that starts really small can become very big quite quickly. And if you can identify what those potential liabilities are early on, you can take care of those and before they become a big problem that ends up in lots of change orders, extra money that costs the district or the customer, those sorts of things. Safety regulations is another big oversight for project managers. You know, have we conducted all the background checks for the workers to be on campus? Have we made sure that we have the proper safety standards in place? Do all the workers have personal protection equipment? Those sorts of things, because it's easy for somebody to get injured on a project. And if they don't have the proper training, they don't have the proper classifications, and they don't have the proper equipment, OSHA can easily swoop in and fine the owner. And we don't want to see that. We don't want to see anybody injured. And so oftentimes they're overseeing that also. Also, they need to understand completely the construction marketplace. And we all know that's a challenge right now, a big challenge, as we've seen some incredible inflation in the last year or so, and supply chain issues, and a lot of those perspectives. And so they are the ones that keep their ear to the grindstone on those particular items. So that's kind of my report on answering that question for you. Is there any question from the board before I move on? Okay. Let's see. Bond update. First of all, I've included 2 documents in your board packet. One is called a project manual K-12 building HVAC upgrade, just as an information item. Feel free to read through it if you'd like, and as well as the HVAC drawings. That's for our heating and cooling systems. So we received those from Straight Line a couple weeks ago. I thought I might just dump it into the board agenda just for your information. If you really want to knock yourself out and take a look at those, if you have questions, let me know. We can get Keenan involved and he can help us decipher some of what the drawings mean. We were planning on bringing 3 GMPs to the board tonight, but unfortunately, because of timing issues, we were not able to do that. We did not receive the GMPs in time to evaluate ourselves. I also certainly want our consultant, David McKay, to look those over before we present them to the board. And also Dave McKay is in the middle of putting the final touches on a comprehensive budget, something the board has been asking for quite some time. And he needs a little bit of time to finish that up. So, and also I'm having Dave McKay review the actual contractor bids to verify the GMP figures before we bring that to the board. So I am anticipating before the next regularly scheduled board meeting that we would hopefully come together with a specialized board meeting just to look at the GMP data after Dave and I have done our due diligence and, you know, dotted our I's and crossed our T's. And at that point, I'm hoping that we can pass some GMPs and move this project forward. So that's kind of where we're at with the process. Last topic is safety assessment for our district. We are working collaboratively with Willamette ESD who has received a specific grant through the state to help rural school districts establish comprehensive safety plans. And this is a resource that your larger districts, they have staff that can do that. Rural districts usually don't. And so this grant is specifically targeted at rural school districts throughout the state. It's a grant we didn't have to apply for. It's just available to us if we're wanting to take on those services. And so we had the inspector, the person in charge of that project come on site this week. And Keenan and I were able to walk him around, show him the buildings. He's got a whole research checklist that they use to evaluate the building. And they'll be writing up a report and making some both short-term and long-term recommendations for us to consider. Safety has been on the minds of a lot of people. I've heard lots of comments in the community about safety. And you know, when this school was built, it was built to be open to the community. And that was the time of that time era. Things are a little different now. If we were to build a brand new building, it would look a little different. You don't want to make them into like a prison or something like that, but there's certain physical safety requirements that you want to make sure that your new buildings have. And or if you have the available funds to be able to augment the existing buildings. We're very open right here. We have classrooms that have 2 exterior doors. We have lots of open doors throughout the building itself. We have, you know, modulars that have open access. And so there's going to be some recommendations from Willamette ESD for us to consider, take a look at. I would suggest it becomes a budget build item every year in the annual budget build. You know, like for instance, this year we're installed a new intercom system. That way, in case we have to do a lockdown, one button push, we're locking it down. We're also going to be installing some electronic locks, about 16 of them throughout the building, that is integrated with our intercom system. Once again, one button push, and the electronic locks also lock at the same time. So, you know, say, please, I hope this never happens. You get a scary person coming into the building and we have to go into lockdown. That will actually save lives when we can lock down and secure the facility. We're also looking at this year doing an extensive drill schedule that involves both fire drills, seismic drills. A great shakeout is next week. We're going to be participating in that. Perfect timing with the Sweet Home incident with the, was it 4.4 on the Richter scale? Also, we're going to be doing lockdown drills, you know, those sorts of things. I also want to bring in some training, hopefully, by our local law enforcement on active shooter situations. And we have to be careful how we do this. We don't want to scare children. That's not what this is about. This is about just being prepared. And when you do some of these drills, you learn very quickly, oh, I forgot to turn the light off, or I forgot to make sure my door was locked, or I can't answer my door even though somebody's knocking on it when we're in a lockdown, unless it's physically opened by an administrator or a law enforcement officer with a key. It's easy to forget those things, you know, and so that's why we need to be doing the drills, so everybody has at least they run through the exercises and they have a good semblance of what needs to happen in case something actually does happen. So looking forward to that safety assessment from Willamette ESD. It is very research-based. It's the latest and greatest in terms of assessments. And there's been a lot of thought and effort and money being spent on this assessment program. And we're very grateful to the state for providing this through grant dollars. So Madam Chair, that is my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Financials. Ms. Sullivan for our September financials.
I'll keep this short and sweet. So new thing is I was going to make sure you guys are all aware of the nice AP report that Accounts Payable provided. Kind of shows the breakdown of BMO, and we're not quite 100% on the BMO on there. BMO is the credit cards. Yeah. And so it's breaking it down and actually showing before it was via journal entry. So it's good for transparency. On the first sheet, I just wanted to make sure to highlight that we are targeting still an 84% use of the expenditures on our budget or less, not at 100% allocation. And then also on the enrollments, these are as of 10/1. So this is kind of your enrollment that you actually report to ODE is 10/1's enrollment. So brick and mortar is 244 and learn at home is 278. And so this is as of 10/1, so it can change. The next page, it would be your general fund statement of revenue. And I wanted to make sure that you could see on the right-hand side that I did put the adopted budget for 2021 there with the supplemental that went through at the very end. So it was the 13.4. And then actually, this is what's already at the auditors right now is your total year to date for 6/30/2022 right next to it. So you can actually see kind of how it compared to the budget in the general fund, the two right-hand columns. And I wanted to just let me know if you have any questions on the expenditure side. So that was the revenue side. And the expenditure side is also, you can see the budget. And so the adopted budget for 21/22, and then the actuals that went through on 6/30. In the middle column where it says over and under budget and then total estimated, this is estimated, of course, at using about 84%. And you can see the percent committed kind of down that column, 84s. And then there's some that are variance, not 84. And so we still are going through, and this is the first draft, still going through kind of line by line to see where we can save a little money, or some lines are just not feasible to save money at. They can't. So I had highlighted in red, just I lowered the SPED purchases because I know we're going to redo that. And then also your charter payments is lowered from what the budget originally said. Charter is 1288 charter school payments. So that reflects lower because that is how many students go into the program kind of variable expense. I still have to talk to the state school fund at ODE, the representative there, and just to see how our ADM affects our state school funding exactly, and when we will really see that effect come through. So I have to get with him still. And the next page is your appropriations. And this is just flat out what the appropriations by fund and function, just so that if you cannot go over these or you're out of budget compliance. So that's kind of that one.
So before we move on to the graphs, just have one quick question.
Mhm.
You are making the suggestion for us to be at 84% of our budget. I know we're not too far into the school year, but what's our trend looking at like right now? Are people being pretty cautious and careful? Are we already seeing risk areas?
I would say that we have some 84% of our budget. I don't know about spending, like how they're really spending, but 84 is taking into effect that kind of overall that your functions, like your elementary ed, it says that we're at a budget at a 1.7. It's already reduced to an estimated of 1.4. So it's taking I just took the budget and said 84, and then I went through and kind of looked at this one could be less than 84% savings on SPED at 75%. And then the district alternative programs, they're a little, that's going to be less. So we have to still go through line by line and see kind of that's where our supplemental budget will come into play. And then also that was when hopefully our revenue will come into play, lower revenue.
Okay.
And I've pulled off a little bit of the revenue already so that we're looking at more of realistic, but yeah. So it's still going to happen. And I just wanted to show you on the, well, the graphs page, on the second graphs page of revenue, it actually, because I like it better, is the local sources, property tax and interest, and we're getting a little more interest there. And then on the expenditure side, on the last graph, you can see a trend, of course. Salaries and benefits will always kind of increase per year. And then I plan on doing all of my transfers probably in November, so your transfer 700s will show your whole 530,000 transfers. So you have your food service, your capital, and I think the other one's bus.
Okay.
So I'll go through for 530,000. That'll show there, but. And then if you have any questions about the AP checks, that'll be later. Unless you have any questions now.
I'll
Well,
wait until the APs.
one of the things I want to point out
Mhm.
is we have been watching this very closely. And we're very, very concerned about our enrollment. Not so much brick and mortar, even though we're down slightly. It's the learn at home. And so we're meeting as an admin team and trying to figure out ways we can increase that learn at home enrollment and how we can do it effectively and efficiently. And so we're still devising that plan right now. And we all agree that the potential of learn at home is much greater than the 278. But we're very concerned about that because we know it affects our budget now. So that is in play. We're also still doing an analysis in terms of what is the break-even point for learn at home. We still don't know that. Lorraine is working with Tim France on that right now. And so we can get some answers on that. But when we're talking about spending 84% of our allocated budget, that means we're going to have to tighten our belts considerably this year. But that's also some of the answers that Lorraine is trying to get out of the state. When exactly are we going to be hit by this? What does the timeline look like? Because we need to be looking long-term at this. And some of our initials is, some will be hit probably the May adjustment in 2024 is what we're looking at. So it gives us some time to make sure that we make some strategic changes, but we don't just go through and just, oh my goodness, the ship is sinking. No, that's not the point that we're at. And so it's really important to realize that we're starting now, we're starting early, and we're trying to increase our enrollment and learn at home, but also make some strategic decisions in terms of how we deal with this.
Thank you.
All right, next up is payment of bills for October. Do we want to approve or discuss?
Discuss.
Okay. Lorraine, do you just want to come back up here?
Yeah,
Just a
Lorraine.
few questions. See, sorry.
Yeah,
I will call out that this
Computer
report looks beautiful and being
went to
able to
sleep.
see where things are allocated is outstanding. So thank you for that.
That was actually my first thought when I looked at it last night. I'm like, oh my gosh, I see what it's for now.
that
Yeah,
helps, doesn't
it
it?
kind of helps us. If you have questions, trigger our memory too. So my computer went to sleep, but it's trying to make itself off. But go ahead. please.
Give the floor over to you, Deb.
So I was going through it last night and everything looks really good. I'm trying to find where I had it out and then something changed here. It had something to do with the balance and it was a check wrote in it, right here on page 7 of 17. It says check total 85,783.67, but above that it says business cards for Sarah for $40. And so I was just a little bit curious about,
The business cards?
Oh,
Does it
that's a
total
break.
that one account?
Well, that's what I was wondering, because do you see what I'm talking about?
Are you talking, you're wanting to know more
Well, so it
information?
says $40.59 for the business cards, which is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
And then right below that, it says check total 85,783.
Yeah, I see that.
And so I went, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I didn't know what
Good
that was.
question. Is that a total?
That's the total, I think, amount of that credit card.
Oh, yes, that is true. Yeah,
So
that's on
we
the
owe
BMO.
85,000 on that credit card?
It's actually was 96,000 something.
Holy
Um,
crap.
so that extra portion was the journal entries that came through. That is, an 85 got into the BMO purchase ordering side of it. So we're still working on that other, so we don't have to do any journal entry. It's all gonna show on this. So
So the page prior should outline for us what is making up that whole 85,000.
So anything
All
that
these
says it's by vendor, anything that says
purchases.
BMO credit card
Yeah, these are all
purchases. Yeah,
credit card purchases that go
So-
towards that.
Yeah, so you're looking at page 6, page 5,
yeah, actually it goes. it
page
starts
4,
at
page
two.
3.
That's a lot of credit card purchases.
Well,
Starts on
see, a
2.
lot of that's the Learn at Home advertisement, because they can only do up to 5,000
Right.
And learn at home postage.
in the postage,
Yeah.
so.
Yes,
Yeah.
we had about 65. Yeah, 65 was advertising.
And the other thing that like, that's not a credit card. Oh, yes, it is. The due for like the hotel room has a different
GL?
account number.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it
So it has a original GL that comes out of like a different,
Right.
259.
so
Oh, I see. She split funded it and where it said, yeah, the hotel room. So I think some of it went out of the ASB and some of it out of the
Mhm.
athletics.
So we wrote that check to that company for 85,000 is what
It's
it's
actually,
showing.
yeah, he used the credit card to purchase that hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think these were numbers that we were not seeing
Correct.
previously, correct? So
Yeah,
these were being
correct.
paid.
Mhm.
The
We're
credit
now
card was
getting-
being paid as a
Yeah.
lump sum, not,
Right.
And now we're getting
Yeah.
some transparency to it. too.
Right.
Which is good.
Just took me by a really big surprise.
Yeah.
If I ever saw a credit card like that, my name on it, I'd have about a heart attack.
Good thing about this is the more we use our credit card, the more credit we get back sometimes. So there's some revenues coming through. When I went back and looked, it was revenue 10,000 and revenue of 13. So we do get a rebate. So the more we use, it's good to use actually our credit card as long as it's transparent on this.
Yeah.
And I think, and then you get some money back to use.
Oh,
So
yeah, I
it's
like that
wonderful
idea.
That way.
That was my biggest question. I was a little taken back by that.
Other questions on bills? and stuff?
So there was Curtis Restaurant. Was that part of the grant that we had gotten?
On what
Because there was
page?
a dishwasher would be page
Oh, yeah,
9.
page 9.
There's 3 purchases. A dishwasher, and a
Heater.
booster heater, probably for the dishwasher.
Actually, that was about a $30,000 purchase, I'm pretty sure, right?
yes, it was.
Totally. and that
16,
was-
11 and 3.
So we got, that was the CNP grant, that we got 16,500 back from the CNP grant, that grant. And this was put in place and we actually had, they finally delivered it and billed
Okay.
us for it this year, but we did get to reimburse it 16,500 from that grant. Nutrition grant. For food. So 33 minus the 16 is how much we're actually gonna hit.
So not all of that was covered by a grant, because we still
Correct.
had the kitchen grant, and was that all spent last
That's
year?
part of the whole kitchen grant
Mhm,
idea, yeah.
mhm.
And they actually, when they applied for the grant,
Mhm.
they divvied it out according to what they thought things were going to be at that time. Like 16,500 should be for a dishwasher.
Mhm.
Well, they go line by line and they say you cannot spend, or we won't reimburse you more than this exact amount. It's
Okay.
not that we bought a dishwasher and this is how much it costs, and this is how much we have left over in the grant. It was line by line, which is
Okay.
unfortunate for the grant. They would say that really. But
Grant helped us somewhat.
Yeah.
Not 100%.
Well, because I knew we had had that grant that by the refrigerators and all
Mhm,
that stuff
mhm.
last year.
Right.
So I was wondering if that was that part of
That
it.
is the grant.
That is.
But I think
right.
it was under the understanding that it was all paid for.
Right.
That's the way I took it.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, and then they changed the rules on us.
Okay.
Nancy Hall fought them incessantly last.
Because I
year.
thought they could spend up to 30,000
Yeah,
and then
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
that's not what happened.
That's not
Right.
what happened.
That's
That's why I'm
why
surprised when I was really found out about this grant. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Yeah,
So that's kind of
Yeah.
what it is.
Okay.
it was really unfortunate.
I mean, some money is better than no
Yeah.
money. but
Exactly, but
still.
it's not what everybody expected.
That's
Yeah.
not what we expected, no.
The rest of it seemed pretty normal to me.
You know, our new Infinite Visions process of purchasing and submitting requisitions is working really, really well. And there's a lot of checks and balances that Ray and I are scrutinizing over expenses all the time. Making sure that, geez, it's the right thing to do, is it not? We've caught a number of things. Gee, do we need to be really contracting out for this and we can do it ourselves? The answer is no, we can do it ourselves. We need to do it ourselves.
I do have some questions though.
Sure.
So the Santander leasing is for the modular, right? The office building out there?
Is it 30 something thousand?
I don't know, it's been a lot.
Yeah, it's buses.
So what is our long-term goal for that? Because we're still not gonna have offices and we're spending, the last one, 7.7 was $72,000. And this one's 30-some $1,000.
Is that the lease?
Santana is
payment?
not our lease for that.
Okay,
little
so what about the
thing
modular?
out
Because
there.
there is one for the
There is
modular.
one, but
It's like
It was
20.
700 and something.
yeah,
I thought.
it's per month
Yeah, 700 and
to
something.
modern building.
Okay, so
modern
what's the
building is
Santander?
Santander is actually bus purchase, like lump bus purchases.
So
we
what's the
actually-
ones through the bus companies? Because there's that also. There's been expenditures through the bus company
Like
themselves.
Kings Valley and Willamette.
No, the Bluebird or whoever they use.
Midco?
Yeah,
I don't think here.
No, not Midco.
I don't think we use Midco here. No, but we do an initial purchase that we have to actually pay out to them.
to the bus
To
company
bus
themselves.
themselves.
Oh, and then it
And then
goes
we
to the
have this-
leasing.
Yeah, and then we have the Santana. and-
Gotcha. Okay, because I just seen both of them and I was, why would we pay twice if we're,
Yeah. So by the end. you're-
so back to the modular.
Okay.
What is our long-term
Good question.
goal to get rid of that?
Good question.
And we need a plan for that because we're not building any offices with this bond project, so.
No, that's why we built this behind us.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think we need to look at that. I don't want to have a modular sitting out there.
Not if we're not gonna build
No,
offices, then
right,
we need to figure out to get rid of that.
right. But, you know, we just need to see how the bond project continues and we might be able to squeak some space in the new vocational center, or I heard there's a fire hall that is down the street.
It's got some ADA stuff that we need to.
Yes, I know. I'm teasing.
No,
But
there's possibility, but
But we need to consider looking at that, because
Mhm.
yeah, it's very expensive real estate to have sitting out there. I would agree with you.
You're looking at the contract right now for are you looking at what other property we own and looking at any appropriated contracts? Because
Mhm.
we do own other property that's not being leased out, is being used, so we're not getting financial reimbursement on it.
Are
And
you-
I'm looking at the preschool. I'm
The
looking
preschool.
at the preschool going,
Yeah.
we're not getting any financial reimbursement on that.
Yeah.
But we do pay for that, and that
We
is
need-
space that the school does
We need to take
own.
a look at that, yes.
So it would be nice to look at the contract with strengthening
Mhm.
rural families to see
Mhm.
what that looks like.
Mhm. Yep, agreed. It's on my list.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions about the bills?
Just want to hang out with us the rest of the night.
So is this normal AP?
It's a big one is the advertising. Hopefully that's it's already been confirmed that that's gonna actually be a lot lower next month. It's not shut off all the way, but it's lowered by half.
So,
We've spent around 95,000 on
Mhm.
Roanoke home advertising thus far. So Tim has reduced it to half of what was costing us on a daily basis. And at some point, we're probably gonna be looking at shutting it off. We have to track, gee, are we getting any kind of a bang for a buck? We're also exploring with the marketing plan more the use of social media. That doesn't cost nearly that.
Well, because I'm just saying 278,000. What is our average monthly bills?
Right around 3 is the last few anyways.
300,000?
Mhm.
And that's what the learn at home advertising, right?
I do believe so.
I think
Those are
that's what,
reports,
that was
right,
with
Lori?
everything.
Yeah, but I haven't even looked at standard billing, but yeah, right. Yeah, you probably, I didn't look at last month's, but, and actually I was wanting her to provide the bills to you in a month-to-month basis, like 9/1 to 9/30. And before she was providing to you in, as if it's the day of the board meeting almost, and
Yeah.
which, and so this actually would flow better with the financials as a month-to-month. So that's why I think I had her cut it off at 9/30. Next month we'll get it 10/1 forward.
And we do have to approve to pay the bills. Is there an approval for the bills for September 2022?
Make a motion to pay the bills for September 2022.
Okay, Deb motions to approve.
Well, second.
Ryan seconds. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
All right.
So I think
Oh.
Linda's mic's been
Oh,
off.
Linda, do you want to unmute yourself now? Do
It's a she.
you have any questions?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, probably.
All right, let's do a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes,
Robert,
Yeah.
Deb,
Yes.
Christina, yes, Ryan.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is patron comments. Okay. Do you want me to read it or do you want to come up and give your patron comment?
Okay. They wanted to know, besides the state assessments, is there any other forms of testing? How are they conducted?
Since we're on the conversation of state assessments, do you want to give a brief overview of the other? what is it?
Sure. Anna, why don't you come back up? Because Anna happens to be, again, our district testing coordinator. Anna, you want to talk about some of the stuff going on in your world with RTI and MTSS and all those sorts of things?
Okay, well, on every year.
Is your mic on?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think so. Every year we do testing, benchmark testing 3 times a year with our map to show growth.
Called MAPS.
It's called map. Map. And so we do that to show growth, and we've done that in the district for many years.
And what kind of growth does it show? What subject areas?
English, math. We in the last year, we added science for our 6th through 8th grade.
And this is K through 12?
It's
or-
it's actually K through 8.
Okay.
That we do this. When we're getting into the high school, they're looking at introducing more about the PSAT, the ACT, and then we've got our state tests that we do.
So the PSAT, ACT, SAT,
And hasn't all been implemented. That's not, that's more of an Eric Clinton type of thing that he's
Sure.
working on. So, so we've been showing growth. We've added in the last year, reading fluency on our map for our K through 2, and it has a dyslexia screener in that. We also do DIBBLES, which is another way to monitor our K through 2 to check for some dyslexia screening and see how they're doing on their phonics. And that way, as an RTI group, we can go in there and have more than one data point to look at to help reach out and get real specific to help them grow. And where they're having trouble spots and put building blocks in there for them to make it easier to be in class. And we are working on restructuring MTSS and
that?
working with
What is
Mul-
that? What was the-
MTSS,
that's
which is multi-tiered
tiered
support
support
systems.
So we've been working with Heather Shunk at Learn at Home Oregon, who has done this in the past. And she is here to actually work with our teachers tomorrow. And we're going to open up a big discussion, what works for them, what we need to improve on. And so we can start the big building blocks to make a strong RTI program. And it will have the teachers, our biggest goal is to open up strong communication with our parents, with our teachers, and keep that communication open, and that we're all doing the right thing for the kids and getting what they need and making them stronger students.
So keep in mind, RTI stands for response to intervention.
Sorry.
That's okay. And then the data that Anna and her team is gathering is rolled into strategic meetings with the teachers and the RTI staff. And they figure out, okay, we've got a group of kids over here that they're just kind of falling behind in reading. So we're going to do what is called a tier 1 intervention. That could be maybe giving another 15 minutes a day of reading instruction. And so then Anna comes back in with her team and they reassess, how are the students doing? And out of that group, 90% of the group might be doing great, but 10% isn't. Uh-oh, that 10% now needs to go to tier 2. Tier 2 means much more intense support to try and get them back to where they need to be. And then you do the same thing, you reassess. And if you still have those that are not making it, then you go to tier 3. And tier 3 is really intense type interventions. What we don't want to see is what I experienced as a high school principal in a different district, where I had, in this particular high school, I had incoming freshmen that had 2nd grade reading levels. Not acceptable. There needs to be interventions that happen way before a student gets to be a freshman in high school and only has a 2nd grade reading level. And that's exactly the work that Anna and her team is doing with RTI and MTSS.
And
So-
our, yes, and our team is Sam and Kayla Wilson, and working really, really hard. And you'll see them running around the school all the time, in and out of classrooms.
Yeah, so it's a big lift. It's a big, heavy lift. And the teacher component is really the new part this year, which is very valuable information for the teachers. So they know where, Johnny or Susie is sitting in terms of the reading levels or the math levels or the writing abilities. So it's very valuable work. So hopefully that answers your question.
But if there's more questions, we would encourage you, do we want them, I guess one of the questions I have is, given all this information, do we want parents to reach out to their teacher, their student teacher first? Or
Yes.
do they want to do like that first and
Yes.
then?
Yes.
For more questions or clarifications, continue to
Absolutely.
escalate?
Yeah, the teachers really need to be the ones driving a lot of this. Anna and her team are the resources that support the teachers.
Is that what you were looking for, B? Is there another part to that? Okay.
Thank you. Are there any online comments or anything that's come in? Okay. Board comments.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent search and survey, do you have an update?
Yes, ma'am, I do. So I
for it.
spoke with Vince today. He is collecting data from the survey that went out. And I would like to say, please, people, click on the link and give your opinions in the survey. It will really help. So Vince is scheduled to come back October 27th with that data. He wants to come to the board and talk to us about the qualities and qualifications that people have put out on that survey. And then he also would recommend that we begin to identify and screen the committee members that we need so we can set them up for training.
When does the survey have to be done by? Says
Well,
10.
he's coming back to
20
talk to us on the 27th, so I would recommend maybe a few days prior to that. He didn't give me a be in by date, but I'm really asking people, please fill out the survey. So it really helps us find the super that we're looking for the, all of us, not just the board members, but all of us in the community.
And does Vince have, does a guidance on how and when we should be having the conversation for the panel?
As soon as we can.
Do
You
we
would
do
like-
it in open session? Do we have an executive session? What is his thought on that?
He didn't answer that question. I can
Okay.
call him tomorrow and then shoot out an email.
Because we have a meeting in 2 weeks. We might be able to do that.
Yeah,
That
that would be
meeting,
the
the
one that
27th,
he's,
yeah.
yeah. So I'll call him tomorrow and then I'll shoot you an email.
Cool. That's
And
awesome.
then,
If I
Please.
might add before we move on, you find the survey on the homepage and just scroll down to like the second page. So you go home at Old Alcy, the homepage, and you scroll down, you'll see superintendent search survey there.
and then, nope, that's okay. And he's also going to present a superintendent salary report to us on the 27th.
Outstanding. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other board member comments before I go? Robert?
Hmm.
Linda? Ryan? All right, so please disregard the special districts Benton County elections criteria. That is old, so when that opens up, there will be new dates and times. We have 3 seats open in this next election cycle for the board. So 2 of which are Ryan and Robert, who filled interim seats. So that has to be looked at every year when that happens. So those seats will be open. And Linda does not intend to run again. So her seat will be open. Even if she was running again, that seat would still be open. So historically, we haven't had these conversations. Might feel a little bit awkward to have them out there. But if you're interested in running for an open seat for some against somebody, we welcome that. And we just want to make sure that everybody knows that we'll continue to put information out there on the elections office information, so you can easily find that and put your name in there if you'd like to run. Secondarily, there's we are lucky enough to get an email from OSBA that kind of talks about some highlights and things happening within school districts. And I don't think it's a surprise that board members and community members have frustrations at times. But I want to talk about, there's always an appropriate process. So your board can't always solve the problem that the state legislature brings things down. So if there's ever a question about rules, regulations, compliance, things like that, we're enforcing what the state tells us to enforce, but we're happy to give you your local legislature's name, phone number, email, so that you can contact them to advocate for changes that you'd like made in your local school districts or at a state level also. So just wanted to put those 2 plugs out there. And that was all. So we have an approval of minutes for September 22nd and 24th.
I was not here for the, is that the
That's the board
retreat?
retreat was on the
Yeah,
22nd
I
and our
wasn't
board
here for
meeting was on
that.
the 24th, or maybe the vice versa. Yeah. Is there an emotion to approve minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for both days.
Robert makes a motion to approve minutes for September 22nd, September 24th. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ryan seconds. Any discussion?
Do you want me to stay out of that being that I wasn't here for one of them? Or
No.
does it matter?
We read through it, and we're going to be voting on the board agreement tonight too. So
Okay,
any discussion? Okay, Linda, can you unmute? So we're gonna roll call on the approval for minutes. Linda,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Deb,
yes.
Christine's yes, Ryan,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously. First reading for our FEMLA GCBDA GDBDA Family Medical Leave Policy.
Yes,
Mr.
Madam.
Cavalier.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is really a first reading. I had planned on bringing a lot more in regards to this policy to the board tonight, but we just simply ran out of time. The Family and Medical Leave Act is an important policy along with about 9 ARs, administrative rules that need to be adopted that go with that to comply with state and federal law when somebody needs to access the Family Medical Leave Act. You know, maybe they're on extended leave for surgery, or they're sick, or maybe they have a family member who needs immediate attention for, you know, a while. What the FMLA does is guarantees that the district holds their position while they're out on family medical leave. And there's also what is called Oregon Family Medical Leave, also OFLA. So this policy that you see in front of you is actually the policy that OSBA recommends even today. And notice it was already adopted. And so that's good. It's just, we don't have the administrative rules to go with it. That's what we need to focus on. So I'm just letting you know at this point, there's no action we need to make on the policy, but we will need to take action on the administrative rules, which I will bring those to you next board meeting. And you'll see all the details. And also, since we're talking policy, Madam Chair, OSBA has started to work on our policy revision project. And that came in this week. And so you expect to see a lot more policies as Rick Stuckey and the team gets going on those things. And you'll see a lot of that stuff. It'll probably make your head spin at some point. That's okay. That's okay. That's important work.
Pure excitement right there.
Yeah, pure excitement. Woohoo.
All right. So next up, we need to, as a board, we need to look at our second reading and the approval of policy for pediculosis. So that is JHCCF, JHCC, GBEBAR, and JHCCFAR. We do not have GBEB in our files. The communicable disease one. That one is not loaded for us. And we didn't actually talk about communicable
did not.
diseases last time. We only talked about
Oh,
the G or
oh,
the policy and then the procedures. We didn't do a first reading on.
we missed that, didn't we?
I was gonna say, we didn't do communicable
Whoops.
Yeah, I
diseases.
think we'll have to. Let me take note of that.
Yep.
for-
Sorry about that.
So we're
we'll get
only gonna be
that.
looking at I and
Yeah, you're only
For 1 and
looking
3.
at the pediculosis.
the AR pediculosis.
Yes,
Okay.
so you have
Yes.
3 policies to choose from there,
Mhm.
and you have 2 ARs, and then you have my memo of what I'm recommending per the presentation from Betsy Brooks, our district
Mhm.
licensed nurse.
And one of the things that I was going to make an adjustment to one of the policies to include notification to parents. In reading the JHCC FAR version 2, there's actually a component in there for it's number 2 in that policy. It actually calls out notification to parents with treatment and follow-up options as well. So I was just gonna say that is in there for the version 2 AR policy or AR procedure. So if we split these out, is there a motion for the pediculosis policy, which is the JHCCF policy?
But don't we need to know which version?
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, which version? Sorry, is there a motion for which version we'd like to adopt?
Well, I would like to adopt version 3. I think that's the one that was recommended by our nurse, and I think that would make most sense with the addition. So the addition is going to go in the AR, correct?
For notification?
Yes.
It's already in.
It's already
It's
in
already
the-
in version 2 of the AR.
Mhm.
Okay. So I make a motion, we approve version 3.
JHCCF. So Deb makes a motion to approve JHCCF G3, which is version 3. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Robert seconds. Is there any further discussion? Linda, any discussion for you on the policy?
No,
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on that first. So Linda,
yes,
Robert,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christine is yes. Ryan?
Yeah.
All right, next is the AR, which is the procedure. There's 2 versions for that. So there's G1 and G2. I believe it is G2 that Betsy also and
Mhm.
Sean have given us
Yes.
their opinions on adoption.
Mhm.
And version 2 is the one that also calls out parental notification.
Mhm.
So would that be by the teacher or by a principal calling?
Most likely it'd be our district nurse. But if they
So-
weren't available, then it would be an administrator.
Okay, because for privacy
Oh,
policy,
of course,
privacy, I'm
of course.
not
Yeah,
embarrassing a child.
no.
So in version 2, that's when I focused on, well, here, how about this? I would like to make a motion to approve the Pediculus Head Lice version 2 AR procedure.
I'll second.
All right, so discussion. There's actually in this version 2, there's criteria of when to check a child, how to check a child for procedure, and keeping it confidential and minimizing the impact to their emotional well-being also. And then in that also it talks about a parent will be advised. It doesn't say who advises them, but it does say that they will be advised along with treatment protocols and household protocols. It also discusses the return to school process
Yes.
on how students should be returning to school with parental communication. So those are my feelings on really having a well-rounded procedure document that will help us with that communication gap that we have at times. Any other discussion or concerns?
Nope.
All right, there's a motion and a second for the JHCCF RG2. We'll do a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes, sorry, had to unmute.
you're good. Robert?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Christina's yes. Brian?
Yes.
All right. And then we'll bring the communicable disease one back. next
Yes.
board meeting.
My
Thank you.
apologies
For the first, right?
for the first.
For the first
Mhm.
reading.
Yep.
Okay, approval or action items. Our first action item that we have is the approval for an RFP to get to a project manager. There is also a document on this for the board to read from Mr. Gallagher.
Sure. Want me to talk about
Yeah,
it?
just talk through it.
Sure.
Real quick, could you?
Based upon, I've fully explored all the options available to us, and at this point, I'm just recommending that we go out for an RFP for a project manager for the bond project. The recommended going rate cost is approximately 3.5% of the project value, which is around $192,000. But at the same time, as I've mentioned earlier, a good project manager will save that plus more. They'll actually be paying for themselves. The search would be advertised locally, statewide, and nationally, and that's according to state law. We'll need to conduct interviews after about 5-6 weeks of advertising to select the best qualified applicant. So there'll need to be a committee that does some interviews, and we just have to do our due diligence. I'll be developing the RFP with the assistance of Jason Hay, the LBL ESD Assistant Superintendent, because he recently went through the whole process and it's going to save me a whole lot of time because things change over time, and he's consulted the attorneys and everything. And so I'll just be using his templates and try to get this advertised as quickly as possible, pending board approval.
Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Brian makes a motion to approve for an RFP. Is there to get a project manager? Sorry. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion?
I just want to let them know that this is just to move forward with the process.
Yes.
This doesn't mean we're
Right,
spending the
right.
192,000.
Right.
If down the road we want to cancel, we can cancel it.
Yep.
So
Yep. This isn't a hire. This is
This
just approval to move
to
forward.
move, get the paperwork going.
Yeah.
Linda, any discussion on your part?
I just think it is important that we go ahead and move forward with this at this time because we have not been real successful like in some of our communications, and someone from a third party from the outside might get us moving a little more on things that we're not connecting with. Not any downfall on our part. It's just the way it's been, and I approve of this, and I think that we should move forward.
Thank you. Robert or Deb, any questions or
Nope.
discussion? All right. With that, let's move to a vote. Robert?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Christine is yes. Ryan?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes,
All right, they approval for an RFP to get a project manager is approved unanimously. Alsea School Board Operating Agreement.
I would like to make a motion to approve the operating agreement.
All right, Deb moves to approve the school board operating agreement. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ryan seconds. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Go for it.
Thank you. So I read through this and I think it's awesome. I don't know if a lot of our community has read this,
Mhm.
and I'd really like people to go out and read it. Number 2 in particular is to follow the chain of command. And this is something that us board members seem to kind of get involved with a lot. And as an elected official, I would like to say my door is always open for anybody that wants to come and discuss. However, I want you guys to remember, if you come to me with a complaint and you tell me a complaint, it in time, if it escalates, whatever that complaint is up to the board, there, it will take my vote out or my voice out of the complaint. So I would love to hear all of your ideas, all of your discussions. But as a board member, I really want the chain of command followed. So when you need my voice at the table, I'm here for you. So that's what I'd like to say.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ryan?
It's on
Any
one
other
page.
discussion? My only discussion point is if we do approve this, can we please get this document uploaded under our board
Yep.
section on the website so
Yep.
that it can be visible?
Yep.
All right, with that,
Thank you,
let's
Nathan.
go to a vote. Linda,
yes,
Robert,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christine is yes, Ryan,
Yes.
I also want to add that an agreement like this, I'm very proud of you guys for doing this because this speaks volumes to potential superintendent candidates. I think it's a huge component of that. And so that's, you guys did a good job.
Well, and I think it takes us to the next level in working as a team
Yes.
in our school,
With
Yes.
guidance.
the board level all the way down, because we're all in here for the same reason. You guys, well, not all of you, but the school employees all get paid to do this job. We sit up here and we don't get paid. And so we're all just a little piece of the pie trying to make what's better for our kids, even though I have no more kids in the school other than Mika's night for exchange, but we're doing it for the kids and that's what it is for. So I think it's awesome.
Very good.
I'm gonna leave the past behind and move forward.
Very good.
Okay, next up is the approval for grant 23178, which is a stay on track to graduate. Mr. Gallagher, can you give an overview of the grant, please?
Sure. This is a grant that is being disseminated throughout the state. Our share of it is not a whole lot, but every little bit helps. It's $2,765. The grant will expire June 30th of 2023, and this is issued through the state of Oregon and the Department of Education. And we have hired a new guidance counselor for this year, whose job will be to focus on graduation and career plans for this year for our kids. So these funds will be used to support this process. And we might have some supplies, might have some professional development, things of that nature. And so it's very valuable. And as you'll see in my Division 22 standards report later on, it's a major component.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve grant 23178?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Robert motions to approve the grant. Is there a second?
Second.
Deb seconds. Any discussion?
No.
All right, let's go to a vote. Linda,
yes,
Ryan,
Yes.
Christine is yes. Deb,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously. Next up is a grant for approval of a weather station. Mr. Gallagher on that one.
Mhm. Thanks, Madam Chair. This was initiated by, this grant application was initiated by Mr. Dave Crow, our CTE teacher, and he's got quite the vision with this grant application, as also is in the, contained in the board packet. And really, he wants to find a correlation between historical and current environmental inputs and related growth outputs of a young forest. So I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. You got math, you got science, you got, biology, a whole bunch of stuff all rolled into here. And I think it just helps for the hands-on experiences for students to provide educational opportunities beyond the classroom. So I recommend the board approves this grant application, and we're hoping to hear by mid-November that hopefully we get it.
Is there a motion to approve the grant?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the grant application for the weather station.
Deb makes the motion to approve the weather station application, approve the grant for the weather station application.
I'll second.
Ryan seconds. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
I will just say thank you to Mr. Crow for the detail on your itemized project budget that matches the grant funding with the total expenditures. So thank you for the detail on this grant application.
Great job.
All right, with that, let's go to a vote. Linda,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christine is yes. Ryan,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously. Surplus of math books.
Yes, Madam Chair. Lori Greenfield is my helper in terms of curriculum. So she helped lead the recent math adoption at the secondary level. Keep in mind, the elementary had already adopted their math textbooks, and we still don't know why these other math workbooks were purchased by the district, because it didn't align with what the teachers wanted or the direction the district went, but they're still in excellent condition. So we'd like to surplus them, and this would allow the district to sell them to another district that could make use of these materials, that they have adopted these materials. We've already identified at least one vendor that would be interested in purchasing these. I don't know what the monetary interest is at this point, but I do know there's interest out there, and these books are just sitting in our storage facilities right now, and they're going unused.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the math surplus inventory?
I'll make a motion to approve this math surplus inventory.
All right, Ryan makes a motion to approve. Is there a second?
That's second.
Robert seconds. Is there any discussion? All right, let's vote. Linda,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christine is yes. Ryan,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously. Surplus equipment, Mr. Gallagher. I think this is,
Which one is this?
I
I
don't-
this is the
have
one
I don't
from
have that.
What's F? You don't have F on your board books for an action?
I have a surplus equipment,
I
but
think
there's
this was
nothing
for this
underneath
one,
that says anything what it is.
but I
Yeah.
can't-
You know, yeah, I don't see the document either. I think we're gonna have to postpone that.
All right, can we move action item F to our October 27th
Yes,
board meeting?
something happened there.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to the approval of the Division 22 standards. Mr. Gallagher, can you give us an
Mhm.
overview of the Division 22 standards for, this is for the year of 21-22, correct?
Yes, this is for, we have to keep that in mind as I give this presentation. It's for 21-22. Every year, the district, particularly the superintendent, is required to evaluate Division 22 standards, which are part of the OARs, the state laws, and it's found in Chapter 581, which is the education area, and it's subdivision 22, and that's why they call it Division 22 standards. There's a number of different standards here that we have to go through and evaluate on an annual basis and report to the school board. The school board needs to approve the report the superintendent gives, and then we need to send by a certain date and time. And Nicole, I do believe it's November 1st. to Oregon Department of Education, the report, as well as the minutes of the board accepting this report. Now, I have a glass of water up here, and you can't see it, but it's about half full. And I want you to keep in mind that this report is half full. Don't look at it as half empty. Please don't. Look at this as a positive. There's going to be a number of areas that you're going to hear tonight that are not in compliance. And again, this was for last year. The good news is every area that we're not in compliance, we've either already fixed this year and or we are in the process of fixing. And I'll give you specific examples as we kind of go through this report. So there's a total of 22 non-compliances in this report. And I think there's a total of about 48 different areas that we have to report on. So yeah, you know, about half are in compliance, but about half we're not. And I wasn't here before March of last spring. I'm not going to sit here in supposition in terms of why or how or what, but I have to call it like it is how I see it. And I have to look for evidence in a lot of these areas. And it's a huge deal every year. And it's kind of like the report that Anna and I gave earlier with the state assessments. And, you know, we're not at the right participation rate. That is actually a non-compliance. That's a great example of the types of things you find in this report. And so this covers anything from teaching and learning to safety, to instructional materials, to assessments and reporting, to program and service requirements, to high school diploma requirements, health and safety, plans and reports that are required, athletics and interscholastic activities, also district performance and accountability, human resources and staffing. Boy, it's very, very detailed and comprehensive. But it also gives school districts a game plan to follow. And we need to make sure that we're following these game plans. Let me give you a great example. In 2013, the state changed their state laws in terms of requirements on how teacher and administrator evaluations were to be conducted. And they aligned it with national standards called INTASC standards. And it also required that we use data, student assessment data. You know, you were asking about student assessment data earlier. We use those data points to help in our teacher evaluations. Is the teacher able to show growth in certain areas with their students that are assigned to them? Are they not? You know, what levels, what kind of goals have they set in terms of student performance? How are they doing on those goals? All that's supposed to line up in terms of their periodic observations and evaluations. I look in personnel files, I cannot find any evidence of evaluations that, if they even exist, they don't comply with state law all the way back to 2013. So I know that's an area that the district has not done the work on. We are now doing the work where we are using our HR consultant to help drive us through this. We're using our admin team to also help implement this. We're going to be start meeting with staff and setting what are called SLG goals, student learning goals, very shortly. I'll be doing the same thing with administrators this year. We'll be in compliance at the end of this year with that particular standard, and that's good. When I was teaching, I wanted a good, solid evaluation. I wanted to know how I was doing as a teacher. This is the platform that provides that. It provides meaningful feedback for teachers because the whole idea of evaluation is self-improvement. I want to become better this year than I was last year. Everybody should want that for themselves. That's what this does. But it is a state requirement that we comply. So we're not complying in that particular area. So when I say non-compliance, I also, as a part of this report, have to put in a little piece that says, what are we doing to bring us out of non-compliance? And so the good news is I just described to you, we already have things in process. There are areas that a guidance counselor plays a huge role in Division 22 standards, particularly in developing what are called plan and profiles for students. And it needs to start in grade 7. And these plan and profiles are, you know, like Jeff, I'm going to point you out here. I'm sure as a 7th grader, you may have had some dreams of what you want to be someday when you grew up, you know, And maybe those dreams align with what you are today, maybe they didn't. But it's important that the student starts to think about that, puts it down on their plan and profile, shares it with their parents. And then the next year as an 8th grader, they reevaluate and say, "Ah, I wanted to be a fireman last year. This year, I want to be a policeman." Okay, change your plan and profile. But then the whole idea is, how does that line up with the classes you're going to be taking? When you get to high school, there's some electives that you might want to take. Gee, if you want to be a chef, you better take the culinary arts program that we have right now. If you want to be a forester, you better sign up for our forestry program. You know, things of that nature. One year I was working with an 11th grader, different high school, different school districts. I said, "So what do you want to be?" He goes, "I want to be a professional football player." And I kind of looked at him and I said, "But you're not out for football right now." You know, he just wasn't thinking through things. We need kids to be thinking through what they want to do and how what they're doing now pertains and relates to what they want to be someday. One of the areas that catches kids really quickly is math. You know, for a student who really wants to go into strong academia, engineering, sciences, medical, things of that nature, they need to be taking math, you know, in middle school. That helps them so they can actually take calculus by the time they're a senior. If you wait to take Algebra 1 as your sophomore year in high school, you're not going to get to calculus by your senior year. It's not going to work. So that's a major component of the Division 22 standards. Last year, we were not complying. I can tell you right now, Haley Rose, our new counselor, is front and center with it. She knows all about it. She's implementing it. You should see some results. And so we're going to be in compliance this year for those plans and profiles. And there's lots of other things in here. Graduation requirements. We are in compliance in certain areas, out of compliance in other areas that we've discovered, particularly with our alt-ed programming. And we've redesigned and completely restarted our alt-ed programming this year. So now we are in compliance. Last year, we were not. Let's see, purchasing of state adopted instructional materials. We need to stay on track with that. We got behind on language arts and mathematics. We caught up with math. We're going to be catching up with language arts this year. So next year's report should show we're in compliance. It's those sorts of things. And so I don't want people to feel that, oh man, we're not in compliance in all these 22 areas. Don't feel bad about that. Realize that we're fixing this. And that's a large part of the heavy lift that our admin team and our staff, I think you heard Anna even testify earlier about the RTI and MTSS process. That is a direct reflection of Division 22 standards. And it's a heavy lift for a lot of people, and a lot of people are really doing an excellent job, but we're also trying to figure out where all the pitfalls are. You know, as we develop new processes, we learn, oh, we don't have the proper resource to do this. We better figure out what we need to reach to, whether it's software, whether it's, curriculum materials, whether it's tools, whether it's whatever it is. You know, we need to make sure that we're providing those resources for our staff so they can be as successful as possible. There's a lot of areas here that has to do with board policies that I had to say that we're not in compliance. And that's why we're doing the OSBA policy revision project this year that is just now getting started. There's policies that we have not adopted on child abuse that pertain to state laws that have been on the books for 4 or 5 years now. There's policies on every student belongs, that prohibits the use or display of hate symbols or bias type incidents. We don't have those policies on the book. We need to adopt those. So as we adopt those this year, next year's Division 22 standards report should look very, very good because we're fixing all that. We're bringing those policies back into compliance. So it's nobody's fault, I would say. I'm not here to point fingers, but I'm here to say, we have to adhere to these standards. And I would encourage you to read this document. It's kind of boring in some ways, but there's hypertext links that you can actually click and read the law if you're really interested in a specific area, like Rich might be interested in safety standards, because with his work as a bus mechanic, safety is number one, isn't it, Rich? At all times. There's also things in here in terms of asbestos management plans. We're in compliance on that one. Hey, all right, great. We have, like, here's one we're not in compliance on, suicide prevention plans. That's something we've really got to put into place. It's a state law. We're not in compliance. I can't find any suicide prevention plans that we have on the books. So that's something we need to develop this year. And that's through, that starts with board policies. And it also loops in staffing and our district nurse and our mental health county resources that we've reestablished our relationship with. It's going to be very inclusive. And so that's something we need to make sure that we're taking care of. We have other things such as, well, here's one we are in compliance on is anabolic steroids and performance enhancing substances training requirements. We're spot on. We're okay. Concussion safety for school sports. We're in compliance. We're spot on. Let's see. Here's another one we're not in compliance on that we're going to be this year. You've heard me talk about the Aligning for Student Success project. That is a culmination. In fact, it's one of my goals. It's a culmination of about 6 different projects and reports that ODE is rolling into one. And it's going to roll in all of our admin team, teachers, our CTE programs, the whole bit. And it's going to be a continuous work in progress over many, many years. Our first application is due in March. And part of that application is going to be the existence of a district improvement plan. It's one thing we have put together this year. And so we'll have that in place by then. Of course, the board will be involved in approving that. And we're trying to put all those pieces together. We actually have through a grant through LBL ESD, a person that's been assigned to our school district for 4 to 5 hours a week. That's going to help us put all this stuff together. Because again, we're small and rural. We don't have the personnel, the breadth that other bigger districts have. And so a lot of the stuff we're taking care of, and we're going to be in compliance by the end of this year. So again, the glass is half full, folks. It's not half empty. Use this as a slap on the back in terms of, hey, we are taking care of business. We are doing the heavy lifting that needs to be done. And I'm very proud of everybody involved in this because it's going to involve a whole team of people to make sure we're in compliance for Division 22 standards. So with that, Madam Chair, I would recommend that the board approves this report so we can move on and we can continue doing the good work and make our report to ODE in the timely fashion. And we go forward from there.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the Division 22 standards as presented?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Deb motions to approve. Is there a second?
I will.
Robert seconds. Is there any discussion?
No.
I just have a question.
Mhm.
So these are presented with a plan to turn in for the November 1st timeframe.
Mhm.
Is there, rather than revisiting this next year in October for a report turning into the state, is there a plan to discuss like at the end of the year how we're coming along with the goals in our non-compliant areas?
I think that'd be an excellent exit document for me to create and bring to the board for the new superintendent.
I think that would be outstanding.
I
So if you
really
could
do.
mark that down and I'll
Yeah.
mark it down for a meeting too. but
Yes.
Keep that as a standing item.
Yeah.
And then where is this document posted for families and staff to review?
We'll be putting it on the district website.
Okay.
So they can.
Under the superintendent's page possibly, or?
Good question. Probably
Okay,
under the superintendent page.
All right. Great.
Yes.
thank you. All right, any other discussion or questions? All right, let's go ahead and vote. Linda? Oh, you double muted yourself and you unmuted it.
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christina's yes, Ryan,
Yes.
all right.
We need to move it.
Okay, so can we move agenda item H, approve GMP for bond? There's no document attached, and I believe those didn't come in time for us to review for a vote.
Yeah, we did not. We're going to need to remove that. And
So can we tentatively move it to the 20? Does the board have any objection with moving it to the 27th unless we get something beforehand to call a special session?
Yes.
No
Would that be
objection.
okay?
Yeah.
Fine.
Linda, would that be okay with you? we'll move the vote for the.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Good.
Okay, with that, there's some key dates, October 10th through the 14th. So this week is our National Lunch Week. If you want to come in and have lunch, well, never mind, it's over. Because we don't have school tomorrow. Hey, we do have a teacher workday tomorrow on October 14th. We do have the OSBA Legislative Road Show on Monday, the 17th. And service and grading on the 21st for our teachers. Picture retakes on October 26th at 8 a.m. With a regular board meeting on the 27th at 7 p.m. On the 27th, it's an early release for our students, and also student conferences start. So the 27th and the 28th are the dates reserved for student conferences.
And the
Those have been
haunted,
canceled. Yeah.
the haunted house has been canceled.
Oh.
They voted as a student and admin team together with timelines. And so they're looking at some alternative type activities that is going to fit better and not be such an interruption to the regular schoolhouse.
Okay.
So there still will be some stuff. It
Maybe
just
they
won't be.
can host a trunk or treat for the kids.
Oh, good
Oh,
idea.
like last year.
Good
There
idea.
is one.
Oh, okay. And then November 11th through the 13th is our OSB annual convention. And with that, we are adjourned this evening at 8:44.
Before 9.
Hey.
Wow.
Thank you, everybody.